Good morning, everyone. In this session, we will be starting with module 3. So, before getting into module 3, let's see what are the contents that we are going to cover in module 3. Right. So, module 1, we have discussed about basic things about big data analytics. So, what is big data and why the term big data? What is mean by big data? Characteristics of big data, and at the end, intra firewall model. And we also seen some applications related to freelancer and these kind of things. And module 2, we are talking about NoSQL. What is NoSQL, why NoSQL, and what is the difference between NoSQL and RDBMS and everything. And module 3, we will be starting with Hadoop. Right, module 3 is about talking about basics of Hadoop. So since it is like basics of Hadoop, it is this session will be interconnectivity of Hadoop and MapReduce, where you will be covering the concepts of MapReduce in Hadoop. As you know, Hadoop is a platform, right? Hadoop is a platform which helps you to run your MapReduce program. So this MapReduce is a programming model for data processing. So what is the first thing we will be doing is how to analyze a data in Hadoop, and next what is called Hadoop streaming, what is called Hadoop pipes, and what is the architecture of Hadoop, what is the components in Hadoop. So these are the things that we will be discussing in this session. Okay, so first let us have a small introduction to Hadoop and MapReduce. Okay, so MapReduce is a programming model for data processing that we know, right? This we had also talked in module 2. And make the Hadoop can run MapReduce program written in various languages. Okay, Hadoop can run MapReduce programs in various languages, whereas Hadoop is a platform. And let me take this Hadoop is going to be a platform, and whereas this MapReduce, which I call as MR, it is going to run on Hadoop. It is going to run on Hadoop. Okay, so which is going to run on Hadoop. And Hadoop is best known for MapReduce. I mean, since it is parallel distributed file system, what we call as HDFS, Hadoop distributed file system. And I hope you know the meaning of distributed file system, right? You know the meaning of distributed file system. Okay, so you know the meaning of distributed file system. I've taken a small example like retrieving the content or reading the data from two blocks and of 10 GB or 1 GB, 2 GB, and how can this can read and write data in a parallel manner, that is parallel data processing. Okay, and now let us start with the first topic, the data format. See, this MapReduce and Hadoop has huge set of data sets, right? And we specifically this is applicable for unstructured data. This is most widely used for unstructured data, so mining the things across unstructured data. And you can see here we will be taking an example like which is as per our textbook. We'll be like taking an example, it is of, we will be talking about weather data set. Okay, so we'll be talking about weather data set. Give me a minute. We will be talking about a weather data set, and just want to go for the previous slide. Just okay, so here we will be taking a weather data set, and where you will be trying to where you will be trying to find out weather climate. And for this, the data format, the data set which is being used from NCDC, this NCDC is National Climatic Data Center, and it is where you can get the data data which is data set which is taken as example. Similarly, you can take a data set from any websites. It is a free data set. It is a free data data source which can be available in internet. So what is that we are going to do? So basically, if you do with R supports CSV, right? We can give the text in form of CSV, and here we use CSVs comma separated values. We can have a different number of formats like this. And here you can see the data is stored using a line oriented ASCII format, in which each line is stored. Each and every record is stored in a table. I'll show you the sample database how it looks. And this is a format supports a set of meteorological elements which is related to weather, climate, and I shall show you some few examples of it. See here is an example which is given format of a NCDC dataset record, and you can see like USA weather station identifier, and this is a network bandwidth identifier, observation date, observation time, latitude, longitude, elevation, wind direction, quality, and height, visible direction. Everything is there in the dataset. At what time it has been taken, and what is the duration, and what is the weather station identifier, what is the name of this W band identifier, what is observation name, latitude, longitude, and you can see like at the last you can add temperature, quality, code, everything is there. And recently you can see a small system in Bangalore, like based on the air pollution, based on the value, it tells you whether it is normal for a human being to breathe or it is abnormal for a human being to breathe. With the surrounding climate condition, it gets the data from sensors, it gets the data from different sensors, it analyzes, and based on the resulting value it conveys either it is normal for a human being to breathe, or it is abnormal for a human being to breathe. Similarly here it is also same thing, like this data will be getting gathered from a different sensors, and then it will be get processed, and we have different variables in this data, right? But as of now we'll be fixing into two things. One is temperature, we'll be talking about only few things. One is temperature and the other one is like date, time. Okay, so we have entire things, right? We'll be talking about only two things. One is temperature and second one is year. As of our example, this is as per textbook. As of our example, we'll be freezing with two things in analyzing this data with Hadoop. So that will be the next topic. So first one will be data format, second one will be analyzing the data with Hadoop. Okay, so here this Hadoop has an advantage of parallel processing, like where we can query as a MapReduce job, and this can be applied for a small level to large level schemes. And I hope you know the difference between MapReduce and Hadoop. And for this MapReduce, I have given you a small example in the last session in NoSQL, like finding out the frequency of words. So finding out the frequency of words in a textbook. Once if you're given a textbook, how to find the frequency of occurrence of words from the given textbook. So if there are if a textbook if 500 to 1000 pages, then you can divide the task among to a different group of people, that is like mapping a problem, and then at last after reducing and combining you can see a single solution as a single result. Okay, so it is an example for MapReduce problem. And here what are the things that we are going to see. Let us analyze the data set with the Hadoop in terms of MapReduce. And MapReduce has two phases. One is map phase and the reduce phase, and each phase carries the two things like a key value pair. And you know the difference between key and value, like if I write name as a label and if I write your name, this name will be the key, value will be your name. Age and number 21, age will be the key, value is which is assigned to this particular key. So it is like key value pair, and it is how this MapReduce will process the things. Okay, and here we have two functions. One is map function, second one is reduce function. And the input to our system, the input to the system is the raw data which is obtained from NCDC. That is input which is applied to this data set. Okay, and second thing, so first we will be starting with the map function. This map function, what it is doing, map function is little bit simple. So like it is going to extract you, it is going to pull out the year and air temperature, that since these are the two fields that we are interested. Okay, so in this case the map function is just a data preparation phase. It sets up the data in such a way that reducer function can do its reducer function can work on it. Like we'll be trying to find the maximum temperature for each year. So that is what the job which you are going to do here. After analyzing, we will be coming out with the maximum temperature of each year. For example, in the year 1998, what is the maximum temperature? In the year 1999, what is the maximum temperature? Similarly. Okay, so here this is how map function is doing. You can see that this is a visualization of how the map works. So here this is what the given data set which is being shown with these things, and from this we need to remove or drop the unused columns. We need to remove all those things, and next And second thing, at last we are going to present to a map function. This we are going to present to the map function as the key value base. You can see like a 0 106, this is going to be a key, this is going to be a value, this is going to be a key, this is going to be a value. And this key are the line offsets within the file, which we ignore in our map function. And what this map function will do is, the map function extracts the year and the temperature alone, and the remaining things will be get omitted. It omits the remaining things, so that you can see 1950 year and what is the temperature, and 1950 what is the result, 1950 what is the result, similarly 1949. So what is the temperature that is being recorded in 1950, 0, 22, and at last minus 11. So I need to combine it, right? I need to combine this into a reduce function. See, 1949 is holding two values, 11178. It should be combined with a single key and with a value. So key should be a single one, value can be another, value can be multiple values. For example, if you take a list of student names, student name is going to be the key, whereas all the different names are going to be the values for it. And let's see, right? So I need to reduce my function. I'm going to reduce the function. I can see in 1949 I have the maximum temperatures 11178, similarly 1950. So here each year appears with a list of its temperature reading. All the reduce function now it is to iterate through the list, and it need to pick up the maximum from this list. So when it iterates through 1959, the maximum will be 111. So 111, and in 1950 the maximum is 22. So it is going to 22. So this will be your final output. So this will be a final output for this maximum global temperature recorded in each year. And now let's see the whole data flow, how it can be get shown. So this is a data flow. So where input a given data set and it has to be get mapped, that is going to be your map phase. So this is where shuffle phase, I'm going to map it like 1950 I have three things, and shuffle I will be sorting it. I will be doing this 1949 into 11178 something, and I'm going to sort it right in respect to year. And reduce, so this is most important, map and reduce. I'm reducing it to further level. And output, so this is the final output result that we are getting. So it is a map reduce logical data flow. Okay, and you can see this most important functions in this are mapper, I mean this MRB, this is M map, and this is reduce RB. Okay, so for this example, we will be having a small Java program as an example, like a map program for finding maximum temperature as an example program. So where you will be using map function, and where you will be using reducer functions, and using Java. Okay, that you can refer. Okay, and also like this map method is passed a key and value, and this map method is passed with as a key and value. You will be having two things, mapper and reducer. And next is scaling out. See, scaling out meaning is, I hope you know the meaning of scale. You are enlarging, you are increasing. Okay, that is scaling. You can either enlarge or you can either decrease. You can increase or you can decrease. So what we are trying to do is, earlier what you have taken as a single simple data set and analyzed with the help of Hadoop. And scaling out, we are going to increase. And for this, what we actually take the examples as like just to scale out, we have examples used on the local file systems. And to scale out, we need to store the data in a distributed file system. As of now, what you have done is retrieving a data from a local file system, and now we need to take a data which is being holded, which is being processed from a distributed file system, that is HDFS. So distributed file system. Okay, so here what we need to do is, we need to store the data in a distributed file system, that is typically called HDFS, and which allows Hadoop to move the map reduce computation to each machine hosting a part of the data. It is something like blocks. In HDFS we have discussed two nodes, right? One is name node and one is the data node, like master slave node, and let us recall it. Okay, so let us see how the data flow will be in this. The first terminology is map reduce job. So map reduce job is a unit of work, the work which is performed, that is called map reduce job. So it is the job, and it consists of the input data like the map reduce program and the configuration information. And here Hadoop runs the job into two tasks, and we have two tasks here, one is map task and one is reduce task. And in addition to this, we have two types of nodes that which controls the job execution process. It is called, one is called job tracker, one is called task tracker. And let's see the purposes of job tracker and task tracker. Job tracker will be coordinating all the jobs which is executing on our mission, like by scheduling task to run on task trackers. What this task tracker will be doing is this run the tasks that are being scheduled and sends the progress report to the job tracker, whereas this will be the one which will be controlling this job tracker will be the one which will be controlling a task tracker. And if a certain task fails, then the job tracker can reschedule it on a different task tracker. Okay, let's see. So here Hadoop divides this input into a map reduce job into fixed size pieces, that is called splits. It is dividing the data into splits. So as I told you an example, like finding the frequency of from the given textbook, you are going to split it. For example, person 1 is going to count from the first 10 pages. That is split. You will be dividing a task into fixed size pieces. It is called split. And Hadoop creates one map task for each split. We are going to create one map task for each split. Then after that, using a map function, you are going to reduce it. And how many splits should I take? How many splits can be get processed? It depends on the task. So we are processing the splits in parallel. So the process is better load balanced if the splits are small. Since a faster machine will be able to process things in a more splits, and since we are doing it in like an parallel file system, so we will be doing all the splits in a parallel manner, that is map reduce. And Hadoop does its best to run the map task on a node where the input data resides in HDFS. And this is called data locality optimization. So this is called data locality optimization. And we have two tasks, right? One is map task. Let's see what is map task and why is this, what map task is doing. So map task is going to write the output to the local disk. It is not going to write into HDFS, right? And let's see why it is writing to local disk and why it is not to HDFS. Since the output is intermediate output, the map output is intermediate output, it is not the final output. The final output is which we are getting in the reduce function, which we are getting after the reduce function will be the final output. That will be written into your HDFS, whereas this is an intermediate output. So it is going to be processed by reduce the task to produce the final output. So since it is things are happening in parallel, I'm going to do in between them. If I store the result in HDFS, which creates a replication, so that creates a replication, and it's also like would be overkill. If the node running the map task fails before the map output, then it consumes the reduce task. The Hadoop will automatically now return the map task on another node, which recreate the map output. Okay, and this reduced task don't have the advantage of data locality. Mean like the input to a single reduced task is normally the output from all mappers, whatever the map we do, like splitting, and the output of all the mappers will be given as input to the reduce function. That is the meaning of this. Output of all the map function will be given as input to our reduce function. In this example, we have a single reduce task, and that is fed by all of the map task. This reduce task is going to convert all the map reduced to the things, and let's see how that is working. See, this figure is representing map reduce data flow with a single reduce task, and let us see how multiple reduce tasks will be. That is in the next diagram. When that is input split, we are going to split 0, split 1, split 2. We are going to map it, and we are going to sort it, and now we are going to merge it. After merging, you are going to give input to a reduce function. This is where multiple inputs with a single reduce task, at last we will be getting this output. And you should make sure that the data which is showing result and we are going to produce as output should be a valid or should be a valuable one. And now let us treat when there are multiple reduces. This map task partition their output, each creating one partition for each of the one reduce task. But there can be many keys in each partition, but the records will be given a key, so the all will be in a single partition, and this partitioning can be controlled with the help of user defined partitioning function. But normally this works with default partitioner, like using hash functions. Okay, and let us see. So this is a diagram, I mean data flow diagram for the showing multiple reduce tasks. And this diagram will make you to clear understand the difference between map task and reduce task and how it is working. So earlier what we have done with a single reduce task, and when you do with multiple reduce tasks, here this process will be little bit faster than the last one. So we are going to merge two different into a merge thing, and we are going to merge this into a merge thing. At last we are going into a result. This works for like when you solve a problem like a shuffle and sort, when you solve a problem with the maximum or within a parallel manner. Okay, and this is reduce function or combiner function. See, many map reduce jobs are limited by the bandwidth available on the cluster. Since it pays since it has to since we need to minimize the data transfer between map and reduce task. Like what Hadoop does is Hadoop allows the user to specify a combiner function. So this is to run on the map output. The combiner function's output forms the input to the reduce function. It is an intermediate. It is an intermediate between this reduce function and in your max function, and also it is one which is combining and which is doing the thing before the reduce function. So which gives the output to the input of reduce function. This output of this acts as an input to the reduce function, and there is no guarantee that how many times it is going to call a particular map out record, and we can't guarantee how many times it is going to do. So it depends on the way that we do. Like we can also call like calling the combiner function either 0 or more times should produce the same output from the producer, should produce the same output from the producer. Now let us have an example. See, map reduce data flow with no reduce task. We are not going to we are not applying any reduce task. We are going to see with the help of combiner. Okay, so just things will get happened in parallelly. So this is going to be fed as input for the combiner function. Now this combiner function will be taking the data from this. I mean the combiner function, what it does is, earlier in the example we have different years. For example 1950, you have three temperatures 0, 20, 10, and and we can see like other two temperatures 1950, 25, 15. This reduce function will be called with a list of these values 1950, 0, 10, 20. At last we can see the result as output 1950 year and temperature recording. Thus what I want to explain you is like we have different years. Once if you segregate it, you can see like in the year 1950 all the different temperatures. From that you are going to come out with the maximum temperature. It is a step by step process. Okay, so this what the combiner function is doing. Combiner function is just like a reduce function. This finds the maximum temperature for each map output. The reduce will be calling like I have 0, 20, 10 this as a first map. Okay, let me take a first block. The first block one is holding 1950 year, three temperatures 0, 20, 10, and block 2 is holding same year 1950, which is having a 2 temperature 25, 10. So what this combiner function will be doing is the combiner will combine these two things and it will get an output like 1950, 20, 25. Okay, so 1950, 20, 25. Now that will be further processed by the reduce function. And even if required we can calculate the mean. The meaning is like the combiner function does not replace the reduce function. It is not replacing the reduce function. The reduce function is still required to process the records with same key from different maps, and it is an optional. And further what it can do is it can help cut down the amount of data which is shuffled between the maps and the reduces. And for this reason we consider combine function in a map reduce job. And some examples have been, you can see some examples which don't have a combiner function, which you can see only reduce function. So this is we call as a 5 phases, like map, split, combine, reduce. Okay, map, split, sort, combine, reduce. So this is a role of combiner function, and this is the role of combiner function and reducer function, map function. And now we can see like running a distributed map reduce job. And here we have one thing called Hadoop streaming. I hope you know the meaning of streaming. Streaming is like you can see a YouTube, the video will be getting streaming. Like you can see a YouTube, the video is getting streaming. The streaming is naturally suited for text processing. It can handle binary streams and when it is used in text mode. And let us see what does Hadoop streaming means, how it works. So it is an utility. Hadoop streaming is an utility that comes in Hadoop distribution. Okay, Hadoop streaming is an utility that comes in Hadoop distribution. Second thing what it is doing is Hadoop streaming will allow you to create and run MapReduce jobs with any executable or script as the mapper and or as the reducer. That is the use of Hadoop streaming. So Hadoop streaming which will allow you to create and run MapReduce jobs with any executable or scripts as the mapper and the reducer. Like Hadoop which provides an API to MapReduce, which provides us an API to MapReduce that allows you to write your map and reduce functions in Java. You can write it in Java and you can do it in Python also. Okay, you can do it in Python also. To be simple, it is on just an API or it is a utility which will help you to create or run map and reduce jobs. That is the use of streaming. Okay, and let's see here, map input data is passed over standard input. Like the mapped input data is passed over standard input to your map function, and you can see a map output key value pair is written as a single tab delimited line, so which is the input to the reduce function in the same format, a tab separated key value pair. And this reduce function reads lines from standard input which and the framework guarantees that or the sorted or which will be sorted by keys and writes its result to standard output. And to illustrate this, there is an example in your textbook which can be which is being expressed with the tool called Ruby. Okay, so maximum function for map function for maximum temperature in Ruby. You can look at that example. And the next term relating to this is Hadoop pipes. So what is called Hadoop pipes? What does Hadoop pipe mean, right? So what is called Hadoop pipes? What does an Hadoop pipe mean? So Hadoop pipes, basically this Hadoop pipe is the name of the C++. Hadoop pipe is the name of the C++ interface to Hadoop MapReduce. So what it does? So it does an interface that you're talking. It is an interface which connects between this and that. What it is doing? Like streaming, Hadoop streaming uses a standard input output to communicate with the MapReduce code, but whereas this Hadoop pipes uses sockets as the channel over. We talked about two things like fast task tracker and job tracker, so which communicates with the process running, which will be helping you to communicate with the process running with C++ map function or reduce function. And here we don't use JNI. So JNI is like Java native interface. We don't employ this Java native interface, whereas that what we does is we don't employ Java native interface. We do the same thing with the help of Hadoop pipes called sockets. Okay, and now this you can see same example, maximum temperature, finding the maximum temperature from the given data set using C++. The same example, you can just look into that example in the textbook. So where you will be using a mapper and reducer classes, which is defined in Hadoop pipes, so which is namespace and provides implementations of map and reduce functions. Okay, and we have the main method. One will be the main method, that is the entry point of your entire application. So the difference between Hadoop streaming, Hadoop pipes is Hadoop streaming is the interface. Hadoop streaming is the interface. Hadoop streaming is the interface, whereas Hadoop streaming uses a standard input output to communicate with the map and reduce code, that is Hadoop streaming, whereas this Hadoop pipes is the interface interface to Hadoop MapReduce. Okay, and this is about Hadoop streaming and Hadoop pipes. And next we'll be talking about Hadoop distributed file system architecture, or the design of HDFS. That is the next topic, design of HDFS. Okay, so the next is design of HDFS. So design of HDFS, Hadoop distributed file systems. So like when the data set outgrows, when the data set storage capacity is being on a single machine, then it is easy to maintain. And when you are making when you are increasing the size of the data set, the storage capacity is getting large. So then we need to partition it across a number of separate machines. So where we need a file system that manages the storage across a network of machines, that is called distributed file systems. Okay, that is called distributed file system. And here this Hadoop comes with a distributed file system, and that is we call Hadoop distributed file system. So which stands for HDFS, stands for Hadoop distributed file system. And some you can see like this is also referred as just DFS in short. So this design of HDFS, like the HDFS has two important nodes. So before to that, let us see a few things. So HDFS file system is designed to store very large files with streaming data access patterns. And this to brief this, we will be discussing about three things. So one is HDFS is meant for very large files. In the sense means like it means files that are hundreds of megabytes or terabytes in size. Like we run Hadoop clusters running today, right? We use Hadoop clusters that run today petabytes of data. So we run Hadoop clusters today that store petabytes of data. So it is one thing with Hadoop, handling very large files. And second one is like streaming data access. Like HDFS is built with around the idea that the most efficient data processing pattern is write once, read many times pattern. So write once and read many times. And here this is streaming data access commodity hardware, and Hadoop does not require even when it is scaling, I mean when the data storage capacity is getting large, is getting enhanced. So which Hadoop does not require any expensive or highly reliable hardware to run it. So it is designed such a way that to run on clusters of commodity hardware, and which is a common available hardware, which is a common available hardware available from multiple vendors. And also Hadoop make sure that when it is having a multiple number of nodes across the cluster, it should make sure that the failure rate should be reduced. No failure should be there. Hadoop in such a way that Hadoop makes sure that the fault tolerance is reduced. And what this about things about Hadoop. And let us see what Hadoop is not good for. And as Hadoop is processing with a huge data set, Hadoop is not good for small files, and which has low latency data access, and where you have multiple writers, so these are the things where Hadoop is not suitable. Okay, so Hadoop concept. So basically Hadoop concept, the first concept in Hadoop is respect to block. So cluster will be having a number of blocks. So each and every disk has a block, so which will be of some size, so which is the minimum amount of data that it can read or write. And mostly here file systems for a single disk build on this by dealing with data in blocks. And file systems are typically a few kilobytes, which normally it is 512 bytes. So normally it is 512 bytes. And this HDFS, the concept of block is much a larger unit. By default it is 64 MB. And like in a file system for a single disk, files in HDFS are broken into blocked size chunks. So the files in HDFS are broken into blocked size chunks, which are stored as independent units. For example, treat that we have a Hadoop file system. It is a distributed file system. We have we have clusters which has 10 to 15 nodes, as it is holding 5 to 10 nodes, and all the nodes will be having a set of data. If one node is getting failed, you can access the same data will be on the other node. The same data will be replicated on the other node. So if one node gets failed, it is not that the entire thing will be get failed. If one block is being destroyed, or one block is being removed or deleted, and this will manage even the other things. So HDFS blocks are large compared to disk blocks, and the reason is to minimize the cost of seeks, and it is like how to transfer the data and to read the data from the block. Okay, and let's see how this works. See, having a block abstraction for a distributed system brings some benefit. The first benefit is that a file can be larger than any single disk in the network. So it is possible. It would be possible to store a single file on a HDFS cluster whose blocks filled at all the disks in the cluster. And second thing is like making the unit of abstraction as a block rather than a file. Just if you're trying to store a file simplifies just instead of storing a file, what you can do is we can make a block which simplifies the storage subsystem and maintaining. With this you can also achieve simplicity in retrieving the things with the things. And here the storage subsystem deals with blocks, simplified the storage management. Since the blocks are fixed size, it is easy to calculate how many can be stored on a given disk, and this eliminates the metadata concerns. And the third one is like blocks fit well with replication for providing fault tolerance. As I told you, like we should make sure that any time the data should be available and the fault tolerance should be reduced, and there is no data should be like it is corrupted or no data is missing, no data is removed, no data is error. So these things should not be resulting in a database things. And as a result you can see the command like Hadoop fsck files blocks. So this is the command to check with the Hadoop file system. I mean, this will list the blocks that make up each file in the system. Okay, so this is a small example, Hadoop's fsck command, and this is called like a file system check. Fsck stands for file system check. So which will list you the list of files available in your cluster. And as I told you, there are this is two major components of Hadoop. One is name node, one is a data node, or you can even treat as like this: name node as a master node, data node as a slave node. It is like a master worker pattern. And this name node manages the file system namespace. I mean, it maintains the file system tree and the metadata for all the files. And this information is stored persistently on the local disk in the form of two files. One is namespace image, second is edit log. Okay, let me make clear it. This name node. Okay, so one I call it as name node, second it is a data node. This name node is going to hold two things. The name node is going to hold two things. I mean, this is going to store in form of two files. One is name space image and second one is edit log. Okay, so one is name space image, second one is edit log. And this name node is also knows the data nodes on which all the blocks for a given file are located. And second one is a data nodes, and data nodes are the workhorses of the file system. So it is the one which it is working, and this data node stores and retrieves. Just give me a minute. Okay, so this data node store and retrieve the blocks when they are told by the clients or the name node. The name node will instruct the data node to operate. The name node will instruct the data node to store and retrieve the block. And once it is done, this data node is going to report back to the name node. It is simply like I will be giving an assignment for you to solve. So I am the one instructing you to do the things. So once if you are done with the assignment, you will be submitting the report back to me. Like it is what a simple logic that is occurring between name node and data node. And without this name node, the file system cannot exist in a Hadoop. In fact, the machine running the name node will be all the file systems would be lost. For this, So Hadoop provides two mechanisms to handle failures. Like I told you, like fault tolerance, right? And the first way is to backup the files that make up the persistent state of the file system metadata. For like example, and here the writes are synchronous and atomic, and we need writes are synchronous and atomic. And also you can run a secondary name node. Secondary name node means it is not replacing the main name node, right? I hope I will understandable. It is not replacing, or it is not a replace of main name node. It is a secondary name node. It means it does not access a name node, but it is helping you to merge the namespace image with the edit log. Okay, as I told you, this name node will be maintaining things in two files. One is namespace image, second edit log, and this secondary name node will merge the namespace image with the edit log to prevent the edit log from becoming too large. And this secondary name node usually runs on a separate physical machine, since it requires plenty of CPU and memory and to merge and to run the things. So this is one important thing related to HDFS. I mean how the failures are occurred, how the failures are managed by HDFS. Okay, hope I'm clear. This HDFS has two things. This Hadoop file system has two most important things. One is name node, second one is a data node. And name node and data node are well known as like a master slave node. So that is going to instruct it, it is going to do the task, and again it is going to return back the results. And to in case of data node failures, so failure can be the name node or can be the data node. So mostly the data node failures will be having a blocks, so it does make sure that it is managed. In case when there is a chance of like a name node is getting lost, the secondary name node will be acting as like a master name node, but that is not, the secondary name node is not meant for replacing a replacing a master node. Okay, and the next thing is Java interface. So as we discussed, as we are told, like MapReduce uses MapReduce, I mean we implement MapReduce concepts with the help of Java, that executes, and that is executed in a Hadoop platform. Okay, and in this section we will be digging into Hadoop's file system class, I mean which is the API for interacting with Hadoop file system, and we will be focusing on Hadoop HDFS implementation and how to do the things and how to get the things. So as you know, like write once, read anywhere, right? That is the logic behind it. And let us see how to read a data from Hadoop URL. Okay, so it is the simplest way to read a file from a Hadoop file system by using java.net.url. so java.net.url, and it is an object to open a stream to read the data from. That is what Hadoop streaming that I told you. It is an API which helps you to read and write with specific standard packages. And here you can see input stream in equal to null. Now we are trying to open a URL. So this is a URL which is passed here, and this is open stream. This is a stream, Hadoop stream, and it is going to close the stream. It is just going to open this URL. It is just going to help you to open this URL and to get the data. So it is one example of reading a data from Hadoop, reading data from a Hadoop URL. And second, you can see an example like which displays files from a Hadoop file system on a standard output by using the file system directly. So here I use the file system, and this is main function, as you know, like it throws exception. And I use two more functions like Hadoop configuration, so new configuration, Hadoop configuration. Then I'm using file system fs is equal to file system dot get URI dot create. It is going to create this configuration. I'm going to get the set the configuration. Then I'm going to display from a Hadoop file system. I'm going to display from a Hadoop file system with a standard output. So there I will be using copy bytes, and I will be closing the stream. I will be if you run this, you can see as a result, you can see this, like it will return you the configuration along with the data, which is returned as a output from the Hadoop file system. Okay, so these are two examples of reading a data from a file system. And now let us see the data flow, how the flow of data will be there within this Hadoop file system, and that is the next one. Okay, so data flow. So as the meaning data flow is telling you, like from where we should start the data, where it starts, and the data where it moves, and the data where it ends. Okay, and this figure shows you the main sequence of events when reading a file. You can see the first sequence, it is open. I mean where the client opens the file and using this function open function on the file system object, and now this will be get opened. And now what will happen is like so since it is of distributed file system, right? Now this distributed file system will call the name node using RPC, remote procedure call, to determine the location of the block for the first to determine the location of the block. So that is getting into step 2, get block location, right? So it is now going to determine the location block where it is going to get hold. And now the next one, for each block the name node returns the address of the data nodes. For each block the name node will return the address of the data node. The next step, so once it is done, what is the next step is like a step 3. In step 3, what it are doing is the client, after knowing this, the client calls, right? After doing this the client calls read function on the stream. Now this DFS, distributed file system input stream, which is storing the data node address for the first few blocks in the file. Now it connects to the data node where now the data streaming will process, and now repeatedly this again this data data input stream, FS data input stream will pass a read to data node and again read to data node, and this is now repeating like this. When the node of the block is reached, when the end of the block is reached, this DFS input stream will close the connection to the data node. Then it will try to find the best data node for the next block, that is which we done in step 5. Okay, so once if it passed a read node, then after reading the data, once it has reached the end of the block, it is going to shift to the next block. So this happens transparently to the client. I mean from its point of view, just reading like a continuous string. But as of now, for explanation logic, for understanding, we can maintain this as a different blocks. But once if you start trying to access from a user, it will be done in a slight you can't find that much difference in it. It will be doing things in a step by step manner. You can't find a delay in it. Okay, so first you are going to open a file, and next open the file system. Next it is going to find the location block. Next you are going to like FS data input stream. Now we are going to read and you are going to close it. So this is how the data flow will be happening within this where a client read a data from HDFS. So it is a reading data, and now let's see writing data to HDFS. So it is this diagram is to represent client writing data to HDFS. So if you see first one step, the client creates the file. The client creates the file by calling create function on distributed file system. So step 1, the client creates the file by using calling function on the distributed file system. And now this distributed file system makes an RPC, remote procedure call, to the name node to create a new file, to create a file in the file system namespace with no blocks associated to it. Initially there will not be any blocks. So step 2, create. Now this name node performs some checks to make sure that the file does not already exist. Okay, and the client has the right permissions to create a file. And if this check passes, then the name node. So if the check pass, then the name node client has the right permission. Then it makes a record of the new file. If the check passes, I mean the check is the name node, and it is going to create a file. It is going to create a file on this, and what the name node is doing is the name node will perform a check to make sure that the file does not already exist. Okay, if this passes, then the name node makes a record of the new file. Else what happens, like the file you will be getting an error like a file creation fails and the client has thrown an IO exception. Okay, once it is done successful, now step 3. So client writes the data. Now client writes the data, now client the data into FS data output stream. This DFS output stream splits the data into packets. Which it writes to an internal queue called data queue. I hope it is understood. Okay, so client writes the data into DFS output stream. This DFS output stream will split the data into packets, which it writes to an internal queue called the data queue. So data queue is consumed by the data streamer, and its responsibility is to ask the name node to allocate new blocks, and by this picking a list of suitable data nodes to store the replicas. This is step 3. And now step 4. The second data node of this stores the packet, and now it is going to write the packet towards the download to the pipeline. So it is write packet. and once it is run, it is going to acknowledge it. Fifth, acknowledge packet. So it is going to happen similarly with the it is happening in a pipeline manner. Like this DFS output stream also maintains an internal queue of packets that are waiting to be acknowledged by the data nodes. That acknowledgement is shown it as like ACK, and it is ACK queue. A packet is removed from the acknowledge queue only when it has been acknowledged by all the data nodes in the pipeline. So only when all the data nodes in the pipeline are acknowledged by the packet by the acknowledge queue, then a packet can be removed. If a data node fails when data is being written into it, then what happens? So what happens first? If when the data node fails while the data is being written into it, then what happens? First, the pipeline is closed, and it will not allow any packets to get added to a data queue. And next, the failed data node will be removed from the pipeline. The failed data node will be removed from the pipeline, and subsequent blocks, other blocks, will be treated as normal and will be meant for communication. And when the client finishes writing data, now it calls the close function. And this close function this action flushes all the remaining packets to the data node pipeline, and it waits for the acknowledgement before contacting the name node. Okay, that is step 7. So before contacting the name node, where it is going to complete the task, right? This name node all knows which block the file is made up of. So I mean, like which block it is going to made up, which block it is made up of. Even if it is a replicated data, how it can be get stored on a multiple blocks on a multiple nodes. So it is reading and writing data to HDFS. Okay, so it is reading and writing data to HDFS. And the next thing will be like once if you're talking about reading and writing, next we'll be talking about input and output, Hadoop IO. How input and output is processed in Hadoop, and what is data integrity in Hadoop. Okay, that will be our next topic.